Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I'm happy that one more time I have the opportunity to be with the brothers and sisters of Ahlul Bayt Islamic Society of New England and Zirk MIT Shia Muslim Association. As Dr. Musalla said, this is the third lecture of the lecture series called Saqifa from Deviation to Rectification. This lecture 3 wants to kind of shed light on the concept of the religion of Ali at the time of three caliphs. We are not investigating what happened really regarding Hazrat Ali or related to Hazrat Ali or related to even uh, the succession of Imam Ali in the time of three caliphs. Uh, just what we want to say, and we'll see that whether that line, because I will see later on the concept of Shia Ali will come to existence during his caliphate. We want to elucidate its meaning and then show that there are followers of Imam Ali alayhi salam before his caliphate, which were devoted to him, and the devotion and loyalty wasn't just political. They continue keep the flame of uh, his religious leadership, imamah or succession or messiah to the Prophet Muhammad. Uh, so I am indebted to one article by Professor Madelung, which is the name of the article is the Dina Ali in the time of the rightly guided caliphs, Khulafa Rashidin. So much of the discussion is from there. So as to start the talk and then the blessing, we are going to read this verse of the Quran. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إذ ابتلى إبراهيم ربه بكلمات فتمهن قال إني فجعلك للناس إماما قال ومن ذريتي قال لا ينال عهدي الظالمين. When his Lord tested Abraham with certain words and he fulfilled them, he said, I'm making you the Imam of mankind, said he, and from among my descendants. God replied, or he said, my pledge does not extend to the unjust. As we said, this is important, that this is accepting generally the prayer or request of Abraham, but with some conditions, and that the imamah was placed in the children of Abraham, but not all of them are deserve to have that lofty position. As we thought, we have done two of the lectures before. One was the Quranic view on the succession of previous prophet, and what we looked a little bit more detail what happened in Saqifa, and some of the arguments, some of the events. Today, as we said, we are going to religion or the concept Din of Ali alayhi salam in the time of the three caliphs, the three first caliphs. Sometimes they call it rightly guided caliphs. Now, this whole topic also bear an importance on the origins of Shia and how Shia come to the existence. And different sides must have different view, different understanding of this phenomena. We have Western scholarship and Sunni Muslims, what they could be divided, Sunni the streets or Sunni scholars, and then Shia Islam, Shias also. How the Shias come to the existence. And essentially the topic is in that background. So we, at the first next few slides, I will kind of summarize the Western scholarship view and the Sunni view, which is maybe we can call Sunni street, and some of their scholars, they kind of, or maybe believe like that. I mean, maybe majority of even the scholars, only a few know that the theory which they're prescribing is not true. And I have to add, as a background, and maybe I do it now. Look, although Sunnis are majority now numerically, but it's not always the case. And it's not necessarily they were the origin and then Shia branched out, because Sunnism was not defined even as clearly till much later. Actually, Sunnism defined or shaped the forms. Now it has by Ahmed and Hanbal about 240 after, I mean, around Caliphate Mahmud, between 200 to 240 after Hijrah. And its tenets is some of this belief set. And it's defined in terms of reaction to Shia's belief, maybe as opposition or at looking to it, they define themselves. So have this in mind. but then they needed some theory to explaining how Shia come to existence. The same Catholic as for Protestants, but Protestants are really offshoot coming out of Catholicism after 1500 years. But Shiism was from the first day, and is so this have in mind is a little bit different. So I'm not fully discussing that. This could be a very good a couple of lectures by itself, but let's start. Let's look, the Shia as a religious movement. This is mostly Western view, Western scholarship, which Professor Matlung is trying to change it. And I think there are some changes we see in the last few decades. Shia as a religious movement emerged according to conventional modern Western view after the death of Ali. So that's the one thing which doesn't match Shia orthodoxy. That Shiism as a religion is after Imam Ali. And many of them put the time in the time of Mukhtar, Imam Mukhtar. So we have the martyr of Imam Ali, and then we have the peace of Imam Hassan and martyr Imam Hassan, and most importantly, events of Ashura. And then we have the uprising of Mukhtar, reaction to it. And among the followers of Mukhtar, uh, there were some, again, radical supporters or former supporters of Imam Ali. And it is during that period they claim is formed. But okay, some of them says the roots exist in the time of Imam Ali, and especially some of the ideas came just immediately after Imam Ali was martyred and dissatisfaction. And this is some kind of Sunni view. I remember the end of the last lecture we had saying that some of them claim no, Imam Ali themselves didn't have claim for caliphate. These stories are made up of Shias. He bayat with Abu Bakr, accepted Abu Bakr, happy. He was very happy about Abu Bakr. He thought himself Abu Bakr's selection was the best thing happen. But these are the Orthodoxy Sunni view to make things smooth, especially Sunnism have that tendency. All the Sahabas were good, great, perfect, all buddies, friends, no differences, no dispute. And these are all stories. And then Western scholarship is under that influence too, and both because they read Sunni views, and Sunnis were more numerically, the more contact with them, more uh, influential, but they also it matches somehow easier theory matches some of the standards or methods they use. So, I mean, uh, so this is, and then so we are elaborating a little bit this view, and this is the crucial part. Actually, this talk wants to uh, kind of refute. Time is crucial. When we show is much earlier, also the meaning will be different. As before the life of life of death of Imam Ali, martyr Imam Ali, and even before his caliphate, and definitely many years before Mukhtar. So he said, yeah, you see the second paragraph kind of explained there was to be sure a Shia Ali during the first inter-Muslim war. That is, they call it the first fitnah, which is the war between the wars during time of Imam Ali. The first one with Jamal between Imam Ali with Aish and Talha and Zubair in near Basra. The second one is with Muawiyah, the bigger one, Saffain, which happened in somewhere near Syria. And then the third one is with Khawarij, Nahrawan near Kufa. But they had, as I said in the last lecture, this Shia Ali Western scholarship accept, okay, but they were simply the active supporters of Ali's caliphate. So it's a political support, political terminology. Shia Ali, she is followers Ali support of Imam Ali. So your Muslim Democrat Party, Republican Party, you don't have any this religious loyalty to them, but politically you prefer this. You may be very passionate, you may be very angry, you may be very upset. Just as there were Shia to Uthman, composed of all those seeking revenge of Ali's predecessor murdered in Medina. I mean, it's partially that. That's the scapegoat. That's the reason. But the real thing also is rivalry between Syria and Iraq, and the parties. Those are Kufan, and the ones those against Umayyad relationship, Umayyad influence in the Osman time, and then part of it is economical. The how you want to manage the land and property in Kufa. I have done lectures before. That would take time if we're going to do that direction. Much of this satisfaction was economic. We have the first wave of those who were in conquest of Iran active, and even some of them conquest of Syria. They settled in Kufa. There was the distribution of the spoils of war that was detailed, and then new waves of immigrants come. The balance of the city changed, and then Osman came, changed the policy of Umar, and which the land was managed collectively. but also you cannot sell it. So, you cannot trade it. But he opened the trading, and some people say he changed the vault to capital. There are long. This is important because before that, Sahaba, some people Sahaba get wealthy, but not as ultra rich, and like it happens later on during Osman and Umayyad. And then Kufas were not happy because some of the lands which are in the backyard was given to other people like Syrians and so on. So some of these are the reasons of dissatisfaction and rebellion. We will see that. So then some of them support Imam Ali, not necessarily for religious, for political, economic causes, but some were religious. And the same way some support Osman, essentially his name, they're supporting the policies which are Maaviyas or those groups which have different views. So essentially, if you look at like this, the conflict between the two parties was in a modern terms strictly political, and that's what we want to say is not fully that. This is the important part, maybe the major part, but it's not all of it. And then this is again the Western scholarship and Sunnis that Ali himself sought the caliphate after Osman's violent death on the same basis as his three predecessors. So they say the caliphate to Ali, Imam Ali wasn't much different from the last three ones. He didn't have any claim to the caliphate before that, and then the people come to him and chosen him. So essentially, Western scholarship following that the rightly guided caliph theory of Ibn Hanbal, which is the order of four. But there again, Western scholarship accept he faced, however, strong opposition first from Aisha and then Meccan Quraysh, Tal and Zubair, and then later from Muawiyah and the Syrians. Then they claim it was only after the murder of Ali and the abdication of his son Imam Hassan in favor of Muawiyah that some of his Kufan partisans, disappointed by the failure of their cause and resentful of the transfer of the sovereign power to Syria, began to build up the idea of special right of the Ahlul Bayt, Muhammad's family, to rule the Muslim community, which is not the view Shia view, and which is the view we want to refute in this lecture and the next lecture, which from the beginning there was, I believe, a special status of Ahlul Bayt and a special right to rulership. And then we first start to review Quranic verses to emphasize that you can see reflections of it in the Quran too. Now, then they continue this part. Western scholarship partially agree with the Sunnis too. In order to raise Ali's status, they now ascribe to him superior knowledge of Islam, which he had received from the Prophet, and sometimes also supernatural qualities. So they say these are after Imam Ali's life. These beliefs were developed, added to character Imam Ali to justify this view. In a due time, the more radical of his partisans claimed that only Ali and a line of his descendants were entitled to the religious and political leadership of the community, and that Ali's predecessors, as well later caliphs, were illegitimate usurpers. The further removed from political reality, the more Shia become prone to religious radicalism. Yeah, as we say, Shia is also a spectrum. And then some were like Zaydis, again, closer to political influence. Maybe, for example, have, at least this is the Western view, partially true, partially not, less theologically radical. But then you go to the other extreme, which are Ghulat or extremists, which have very radical views and are very critical of the first two caliphs and very revolutionary. So this is a summary of Western scholarship till recently, I can say, is dominant. I mean, Madelung's book, which the one we saw, The Succession to the Prophet Muhammad, we used last lecture, was influential to changing this dominant view. But we have another one, which is important. Actually, this I can call it Sunni view, Sunni street view, maybe first proposed by a historian called Saif ibn Umar, which is he's a very pro-Umayyad, or we can call it Shia Uthman historian, but in the time of Abbasid. Despite Abbasid revolution, despite that the Umayyads were toppled and Umayyads were really, all the Umayyad descendants more or less were killed by the Abbasid revolutionaries, except a couple of them. But it's still some scholars, or some, people which were prominent Umayyad continue to be influential in some way that Umayyad Islam or continues to live in Abbasid, and then they had their effect in Sunnis views too. And actually, the rise of Salafism is bring them to forefront. For the after the topple of Umayyads, downfall of Umayyads in year 132 Hijri or 750 AD. Umayyad we use are hidden. They're not very on the forefront. For example, nobody disrespect Imam Ali. Hope of Ahlul Bayt is there. Imam Ali is loved. In the time of Umayyad, they used land. Imam Ali cursed Imam Ali in the Friday khutbah prayers. Those were all stopped. Those are changed. And as I said, Ahmed Hanbal did a compromise. Because Umayyad didn't consider Imam Ali even legitimate Khalif. After they get the power changed the order of the caliphs. They consider the first one Abu Bakr, Umar, Osman, and then from Osman they jump to Muawiyah and go on. So Umayyad dynasty kind of started with Osman. But when Abbasid came, Abbasid didn't accept the Umayyads. So the compromise was there. Okay, I think Imam Ali, the fourth caliph, accepting, and many of the revolutionaries, one of the Abbasid didn't accept Osman too. At least many of the revolutionaries, and even those at the time of Ali, Imam Ali didn't accept legitimacy in Osman. So the compromise with Ahmad ibn Hanbal was that, okay, adding Osman to the list, adding Imam Ali to the list, and making this rightly guided caliphs. But Saif ibn Umar was one of those pro-Umayyad, Osmanid one, write a history which was not, some of it was lost, some of it was there. And recently, actually, another part of the manuscript was discovered. And besides being pro-Umayyad, he's also known that have made up stuff because to improving the honor of his tribe, he made up fake companions, stuff like that. And then one of his stories he's made up for how much he made up, although we don't have time too much to see, I will say a little bit, is regarding the origin of Shia and is very influential in Sunni street. So I think if they ask the common people how the Shias come to exist, then kind of they will tell you this. Maybe the scholars know, but I'm not sure all of them know. Many of them also, those super scholars also believe this. So according to his account of Saif ibn Umar, which as I said, he's discredited, Allama Askari Najaf, I don't know, maybe 80 years ago, 60 years ago, had a very interesting article, and Indian business scholarship look at it. We cannot go through that, but so let's read what we have here. According to his account, the Shia was founded by Abdullah ibn Sabah, a converted Jew from Yemen. So the easiest way to explain is as some kind of conspiracy, and then the Muslims were unified. Muslims are good. Muslims are Sahaba, other brothers. No difference between Ali, Umar, Abu Bakr, Talha, Aisha, Zubair, Muawiyah, all their buddies, friends. But then something happened. This Mr. guy come from Yemen, and he was a former Jew, and then he instigated all these differences, all the civil war, fitnah, and all changes. So, and then they claim his activity began during the Caliphate of Uthman when he traveled from Hijaz to Syria. So Yemenis come to Hijaz, came to Syria, stirring up unrest and rebellion in Egypt, Basra and Kufa. Uthman was killed when the people coming from Egypt first, Egyptians the most dissatisfied from Osman, but when they start to move to Medina and surrounding Osman house, the Basran and Kufan and people from Mecca also joined them. But now he claims this instigator, the leader of this uprising. We don't say there is no conspiracies, but at least just one in this level of one person. It doesn't make sense. But stirring up unrest and rebellion in Egypt, Basra, and Kufa, inciting to the murder of the Caliph by the Egyptian rebels. He preached, now they claim he's the one proposed, advanced, initiated Shia views. He preached that every prophet had a wasi, a legatee, and that Ali was the divinely appointed wasi of Prophet Muhammad. So each prophet had a wasi. Like, for example, we discussed the discussion with Jesus that some people think Simon the Peter was the wasi of Hazrat Masih, but we said that must be James, his half brother or step brother. And then here's we know Shia, we know that Imam Ali was designated on the day of Qadir as wasi, but here they claim this Ibn Sabah was proposing this idea. And then then the Saif ibn Umar says, Ibn Saba says this, just as Prophet Muhammad was the seal of the prophets, Imam Ali was the seal of legatees. Ibn Saba was also responsible for the outbreak of fighting between the armies, Ali and Aisha in Basra. I mean, how this one person can do that. And then, according to other Sunni and Shia sources, after Ali's death, he taught ideas later associated with the Shia extremist Khulat that Ali had not died but was riding in the clouds and would return to establish justice on earth. Now, this character of Ibn Saba has become complicated. At first, there existed, it needs a separate lecture. I mean, actually, maybe separate couple of lecture. Existed a person which was Abdullah ibn Saba, really existed. But somebody exists, but assigning these kind of views to him, legendary views, doesn't make. There was maybe a Robin Hood in some guy in Nottingham Forests, but not maybe the Robin Hood of legend, or Rustam. I mean, Ferdowsi says Rustam was Yeli Dar Sistan. Rustam was a warrior, a strong man in Sistan, Iran, but he adds, "Manesh kardam Rustam Dastan," but it is me who made him this Rustam Dastan with this kind of character quality and legendary features. Now, Ibn Saba was much maligned, and actually, it seems the propaganda of Umayyads and Abbasid worked on it to exactly promote this view of Shias coming to existence and maligning Shias. He was very serious. Maybe he was enthusiastic follower of Imam Ali. He loved Imam Ali, and it seems he had put a lot of hope in Imam Ali. I mean, look, we have many, for example, many in Lebanon had all hopes with Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, and many of them, and even, I mean, myself, like to believe the rumors he hasn't died, he's alive, he will come back. And it seems for him, which wasn't in Kufa when the time Ali was assassinated, it was in Madain, a city farther northeast and mostly Iranian. Uh, they claim he didn't accept it, is that of Imam Ali first. And maybe he had some odd behavior, but not as extreme, they say. And then they ascribe some ideas to him. We are not sure it's true or not. These ideas were really his were ascribed to him. And some of them is later pushed and developed by some other people. So the image is made from him, like Rostam Dastan or Robin Hood, is made up composite image. It's not the historical Ibn Saba. And they impose anything they can on him, and then make it so heinous or hideous or strange to be the instigator of all the fitnah, all the problems of the beginning of Islam, and the originator of Shia Islam. But the story become too exaggerated. The Salafar see the soup become too salty, Ash become too salty. Then even Sunni start to see this is ridiculous. If this guy can do all this stuff, it removes all the credibility of the caliphs, all the Sahabas. So if this guy can make Aish and few Sahabas fight each other, so those Sahabas doesn't look good on them. So they notice the story is gradually is like in Farsi we have spitting upward. It is not reflecting good in Sunni or old Muslims too. If this one guy from Yemen, a Jew, can do all this conspiracy alone. We're not going to go to discuss him, but on the other side, his image was so negative that many Shias want to dissociate from him. But we have in hadiths, very authentic hadiths, that says some of his descendants even see Imam. It was embarrassing. The descendant come, no, I am to see Imam, sixth Imam, and said, I'm his descendant. So he's not talking about Ibn Saba, but have his idea, his name in mind, because at the end of lecture we see him, and also next lecture again. And this is the common conspiracy theory Sunni says, how Shia come to existence. And the views I'm saying, some of the views, if the views and early literature assigned to him, they're not that odd. There, some of them could be part of Shia. But then you see by the time passes from second to third or fourth or fifth to 16th century, every odd view is assigned to him. Okay, those ideas are not Shia Islam, and then Shia of Ali, Ghulat, extremists come out. And then technically, I don't think he can consider even a Shia extremist because I don't see in his classic views he says anything about divinity of Imam Ali. But our discussion is not Ibn Saba, but as I said, it's not real historical Ibn Saba. It's the made-up image of Ibn Saba, which it is used as a boogeyman to or whatever to say this is the one who made all the problems and produced Shiism. As Madalong says, Sayyid ibn Umar was long rejected as a credible source by modernists and historians, beginning even with Julius Wellhausen, the great historian of 19th century, early 20th century. He has recently been rehabilitated by some scholars, and some of them actually Jewish Israeli scholars, but it doesn't relate it. I mean, I think that, yeah, some part of it maybe can be rehabilitated. In some other parts, the works may be useful. But the story of Abdullah Sabah has not found favor. It too closely resembles, as Matlun says, similar stories about the origin of heterodox sects not to be recognized as a typical Orthodox black religion. You know, in all religions, when they say that when some schism happens and sects separated, the other the origination of this splitting, sometimes this kind of stories are made. You know, some evil man coming through and had made, for example, Catholicism regarding maybe Martin Luther didn't have a good view. Martin Luther himself has very, very negative views about popes. So, I mean, it's called Black Legend, which he is hardly historically can accept, which is true. But he says, despite this, which Western scholarship doesn't accept the Sunni view of origin of Shiism, but they still share again with Sunnis that this assertion that Ali himself had nothing to do with the rise of religious Shiism and its doctrine. So again, all agree that Ali doesn't have any religious claim, and no, nothing claim to the leadership community. These are all made up of his followers later, much after Ali's passing away. And then they say instead Ali is said to have repudiated Ibn Saba's teaching and have to banish him from Kufa to Medina. This could be true, but it doesn't mean that Ali doesn't have uh, himself any claim to religious authority. Because as I said, maybe Ibn Saba's views were too radical, as we'll see. But I don't think even this banishing is also correct. But Ibn Saba's view may be too radical against the first two caliphs, which could be bringing instability in the Imam Ali's army or the front or the people who support him. Because many of the support Imam Ali, as I said, they were not Shia of Imam Ali, and they kind of believe the legitimacy, unlike the first two caliphs, because still those two caliphs were successful in conquering, uh, many lands, and they didn't like Osman. Generally, if you were supporting Imam Ali, at least the common thread was that you don't support Osman, you were against Osman, but this wasn't the case regarding the first two caliphs. Well, we know Ibn Saba, as we'll see at the end of this lecture and next lecture, was strongly critical of the first two caliphs. Now, so now this is a long introduction that you can see, okay, this talk where it may fit regarding the origins of Shia Islam. But now we have to go to a little bit going on what was happening. Other historians of this early period, and especially in Kufa, which Shiism really get shape and get strength, and what happened. So in order to examine the character of the Shia of Ali in the time of rightly guided caliphs, the first three caliphs, it is necessary to return to the Kufan historical tradition besides Saif. One of them, because Saif is hostile to Kufa as the Shia Islam, Umayyad, so we have to go more neutral one. One of them is Aban ibn al-Hakam al-Kalbi, which is an important historian, reports on the authority of Shabi. Okay, this Shabi is a complicated guy. He was very prominent in Kufa, close relation to Shia, but he's a man of world. I mean, yeah, later on we can discuss him. He is playing all sides, and he was a judge for a while, but very well connected to the judges and uh, elite scholarship in Kufa after Imam Ali. But it's related from a Shabi on account of the Kufan. Okay, we are talking about this Jundab ibn Abdullah Azdi, which is an important person. We'll see it again next lecture and the end of this lecture too. As was a very big tribe, very influential. Yemeni, some of them in Oman, and some of them moved to Khorasan, Iran later on, and then imparted in Abbasid revolution. So Jundab Abdullah Azdi about his activity in supporting Ali, the beginning of Osman reign. So we start to see what the historical record says, that our people are, because if their theory is true, uh, Imam Ali is like in other companions, no special support, something, and waiting his time after the Osman caliphate, which takes 13 years to become its turn and his role. But these evidence shows no, even if from early time of Osman caliphate, uh, there were activities from Imam Ali and activities wanting him to be the leader, and there were Shia of the Ali has shaped effectively before the death of Osman, and all those were, and that timing early means the meaning of it is more political and more just related to Osman. Remember, we studied last lecture, which that Omar was upset from some people were saying if Omar dies, I will bay'at to Imam Ali, and Omar wants to stop this and get go and threaten people. If you do this without shura and consultation and do it the way we did for Abu Bakr, I will kill you, I will punish you. So you see, and then so maybe there's a pressure was growing even the time of Omar before Osman. And then we saw also that uh, we say that what was the reason Omar had to put Imam Ali, although he was effectively house arrest, I mean, they didn't let Imam Ali go out of Umar essentially didn't let any of the companions leave Medina. He was doing the eyesight. He was worried if they go out, maybe they come back with the rebellion, with the army toppling him. So it's really because to become a next leader, you must have some legitimacy, some history, some record in Islamic movement, and then some credibility and acceptability. So he didn't let them go out. Most of them are just kept in Medina on site. So, uh, but we know that because of the presence of the Yemeni tribes and other tribes, especially those present in Kufa and Basra, which are military men, strong men, are important in Futuhat. Government cannot ignore them. And they like Imam Ali, the influence of Imam Ali grows. So he had to put Imam Ali in the Shura, which selected Osman at the end to get the Shura some legitimacy. So this kind of Shia to Ali, at least uh, attention to him, and he's different from any other typical companion. We have clear records before him in the time of Osman. We have the Ummah. But okay, this is the Kufan records, so we're not discussing everything or anything. And they're not, I mean, what we have, what is in front of us, we are using. So this Jundab and Abdullah Azdi is very clear that has, I will explain something about him more too, but it says clear as activity supporting Imam Ali just at the beginning of Osman. So it is said, John Depp said he was in Medina when is the time that Shura convened to choose the next leader, and they chose Osman instead of Imam Ali. Was upset. So it must be among the group which they were talking to people there in that Hajj or other places that we want Ali be the caliph. And then Omar heard it, was upset. We discussed in last lecture. So, and Jundab the Abdullah is known as Jundab al-Khair, so he's in a prominent company. Khair means good. Was according to Calvi the one who killed the magician whose tricks and used the government invalid. If you have seen this, the series Imam Ali alayhi salam, the first episode opens up with this magician doing something strange things with in front of the Kufa's governor Al-Walid the Mughira, and then which is some of the things he did the magician was against Islamic Sharia, and somebody come kill the magician. The caliphs get angry, arrest him. Some say it is Jundab, this Jundab ibn Abdullah al-Azdi, which we are discussing, but some other historians says is another Jundab. The movie I think considered is this Jundab, but I think the more correct one is Jundab al-Kab al-Azdi. And Long said that, and I think I agree with him. So is another Jundab from the same tribe, but his father name is different. But if you go to some storybooks, still they think it's the same guy. But let's go back to continue our story. But this Jundab is important, Jundab and Abdullah as the as a witness many events, as a follower of Imam Ali from the beginning of early, even before selection of Osman. And his son, uh, Abdul Rahman, is one of the important narrators of the history of Kufan Shi'ism. All the events in Kufa during wars of Imam Ali, Mukhtar, and maybe even some things related to Ashura. So his son is a very important role in developing his story of Kufa. So if going back to the Jundab ibn Abdullah al-Azdi goes to Medina and see Miqdad ibn Amr. And the Miqdad we know is one of the famous companions and is one of the few that didn't bay'ah with Abu Bakr at the early stage, and is one of the few that maybe the president of the house of Hazrat Fatima after Saqifa supporting Imam Ali, Mirdad, Salman, Abu Zar, Ammar. These are usually, they're not prominent Qurayshis, so they don't have the lineage, but they have the pure heart and they support Imam Ali, and among these supporters. So these four usually are mentioned, Mirdad, Salman, Ammar, Abu Zar. Sometimes they had Huzayfa Yaman. Okay. He visited Miqdad ibn Amr and a strong backer of Ali, disappointed by election of Osman. So Miqdad was disappointed of election of Osman in Medina, and Abdullah ibn Jandab was. And then, remember that story? We have something Abdul Rahman of Auf seen. Again, we have here, Abdul Rahman of Auf was important last lecture. Here we see Miqdad, which is the old companion. Abdul Rahman of Auf is also companion of Prophet. They're arguing. So Jandab saw Miqdad is arguing with Abdul Rahman of Auf because his role and because his tie-breaking bolt at the end shows Osman, and I think he was rebuking Osman. And then look, rebuking Osman was common. Look, it's like you choosing somebody which doesn't have credential. Osman was old man when he was selected as the caliph, was 68 years old, older than the time when Prophet Muhammad, Imam Ali, Abu Bakr, Umar died. And then everybody thought we choose this old man to buy time, not Ali be the caliph, to see what happens. But this guy become 13 years the caliph, 81 years old, and he didn't die with natural causes. So one thing is that, and didn't have any political experience. He was no commander. He was no in army, no governorship, no jihad. Only he avoid all the wars. Only has some wealth, okay, and then spend it. So it's natural people being upset. When you have two rival candidates and between Imam Ali and Osman, you choose Osman. So that's the typically Miqdad, which is old companion talking or disputing with Abdul Rahman. It seems, but Jandab, after visiting Miqdad, went to see Imam Ali himself. He then visited Imam Ali and offered to appeal to the people in his hometown Kufa. Miqdad, I think, was living in Medina, but Jandab with Yemeni tribes was living in Kufa. He went to see Imam Ali in Medina and said to him, look, we are willing to help you uprising or saying something supporting your cause. We don't like Osman. But Imam Ali said to him, it's not the time. So after that, so we see this is the first examples that he's distinguished. There is some support, there's some looking up to him, and is more than, is something unique and special statuses to him. After his return to Iraq, Jundab did, however, speak out for Ali. So Jundab returned, and he's always is a firm, enthusiastic supporter of Ali. But because of started talking for Imam Ali, he met for the most part with opposition and was denounced by Osman governor Kufa al-Walid ibn Uqba. Yeah, it was Walid ibn Uqba. I don't want to say it Walid ibn Mughayra. It's Walid ibn Uqba, which that magician was playing in front of him and was killed. Walid ibn Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayt, which is a relative of Osman, some relationship. So that governor imprisoned Jundab. And then some people intercede, he released. So this is from Jundab and Miqdad we see. But then now we see other people. So again, we want to claim this is not one people or two people. There are more than that. And these are prominent people. And these are in Kufa. And everybody in Kufa is, most of them are military commanders, those who did fight in the War of Conquest. So probably not much later, according to Abu Mikhnaf and another, or the most important historian of early Kufa, Amr ibn Zurara ibn Qais. These are, some of the names are today are many names, but I think it's good to hear them. These are really prominent Sahabi of Imam Ali. I have a book, 2-volume book, listed about 2,000 Sahabi of Imam Ali. They find it from the historical books. If you can go to Kufa and Najaf, still some of them are they'll take you some of those places with the shrine of the burial place of some of these guys. Besides Imam Ali and the other stuff, you go to Masjid Kufa. There are other places. There are a couple of places you see some of these places. As is really they take you. So these names are. It's good to know. These are our stars, or they're really the same are people in Karbala, Ashura, which uh, also the Sahabi Imam Ali. So I wanted names be heard, and each of them have interesting story. That book which lists 2,000 of them. Try to at least write one paragraph about each, as far as they can find some information. Okay, so this is Amr ibn Zurad ibn Qais is one from, and then Kumail, the Kumail ibn Ziyad Nahik, his name is Kumail ibn Ziyad ibn Nahik, but both are from tribe of Naha, which is a Yemeni tribe, and a sub-branch of the much bigger tribe of Masaj. And then these two, so after Mehrdad and John Dad, now we see this Zorare Lakomail, which the Lakomail is associated to him. They all start to talk negatively against Osman. They think he's not a good caliph. They are looking for the position of Osman and giving allegiance to Imam Ali. They're talking Kufa. Then Amr ibn Zurara told the people that Osman had abandoned truth, although he knew it. This could be a little bit now later, maybe 5, 6 years after, or a few years after rulership, which they saw even is not even sticking to the Quraysh oligarchy like Abu Bakr and Umar. He's just putting all the governorship, all the positions to Umayyads, and using the treasury, the Beit Mal as he wish. No rule, no at least uh, at least the time of Umar, there was some regulation and who gets what, how much you get, basis of precedence. No, here they spend as they wish. They use it as they wish. And all Bani Umayyah. So, and then Amr ibn Zurara told the people that Osman had abandoned the truth, although he knew it. It had made the pious among them subject to persecution and appointed the worst of them to rule. Uh, so this is Osman. When the governor Al-Walid heard this, he tried to kind of confront them directly, but then he was warned, this is getting a little bit tough. You have to be careful. These are big tribes. If you confront them directly, maybe people rebel, because there was some restlessness, overall. Yeah, we don't have time to discuss that. Then now we see the other person, which is the famous one, Malik ibn Haris al-Ashtar, came to the story. Malik is the leader of the Al-Nakha tribe. Remember, both Kumail, ibn Ziyad is Nakhai, and Amr ibn Zurar is Nakhai. So they belong to the same tribe, Nakha, which Malik is the head. So Malik come kind of intervene and become mediating. He come tell the governor, offer to intervene and easily calm his people, warning them against sedition. So calm things down because it wasn't right to do that at that time. Subsequently, but Al-Walid wrote to Usman about the Afir, and the Caliph instructed him to this exile Amr ibn Zurar. So the first of these guys, not Kumail, but the other one was exiled, and then Osman called him Burish Bedouin, Arabi Jelf, uh, and a class thing, putting down him, and then to Syria. And why to Syria? Because Muawiyah is the governor. So this is the place they exile these guys, and there's a hostile place to them. But we add something interesting about the Amr ibn Zurare, which is now exiled. Amr ibn Zurare was in fact son of the leader of the delegation of Banu Nakha, which visited the Prophet not long before his death to make the submission to Islam, and that Amr himself was considered a companion of Prophet Muhammad. So this Amr ibn Zurare, which is supporting Imam Ali, technically was a companion of Prophet Muhammad, and which is exiled by Osman. So he's exiling companion of Prophet Muhammad. And his father was among the delegated coming to accept Islam. And then as he was being exiled and leaving Kufa, Amr was escorted by an Ashtar, Malik Ashtar, and two other Nakhaima. One of them is Al-Aswad ibn Yazid ibn Qais, Al-Ghanat ibn Qais ibn Yazid. Okay, they're not that famous, but still they're important. So again, we'll see some of these guys' names are active in supporting Imam Ali. So we see now the most support from the Nakha group, and which is the Malik Ashtari is the leader. But one thing about Amr ibn Zurara, although he seems he's the first one very radically or clearly cry for deposing Osman very early, we are not sure he lived enough to be alive during Imam Ali's caliphate, because we don't see any role from him. Maybe he passed in exile. The same way, Osman exiled Abu Zar again to Rabazah somewhere in Lebanon or uh, and Syria, and then here he also died. These are relatively older men, and then in the harsh environment, some exile and situation made they not live long. Now, the delegation of Banu Nakha is said to have consisted of 200 men who, okay, this slide is a little bit missed, but uh, okay, I misplaced some of it, but let me explain the two slides. This continuation of the previous slide, which explaining Amr ibn Zurara, but regarding Amr ibn Zurara and his father, which we said he's the leader of the delegation coming to the Prophet Muhammad and accepted Islam. The father was the leader of a delegation from Nakha, which included 200 men, and they come to visit the Prophet Muhammad in the Muharram of 1st of April 632. Just 2 months before, about 2 months before Prophet Muhammad passed away, with either Safar of 28 or Rabi al 3rd. So, I mean, mostly the date we use is 28th of Safar, but some historians says it's matter maybe Rabi al 2nd, 1st, 3rd, somewhere 2 months before. And regarding the father of this Amr ibn Zurara, that is Zurara base, they said he maybe have been Christian before accepting Islam. So these are coming from a religious monotheistic family. The father was Christian, then accepted Islam. The son was the companion. Now is exiled by Osman uh, to Syria. The escorts returned to Kufa, but this doesn't look good. And the same situation we have for Abu Zar. When Abu Zar exiled from Medina to Syria, Imam Ali and Hassanain escorted him. And Osman was unhappy about that too. But Imam Ali insisted. Uh, and then it seems this event was recorded by a poetry that Qais ibn Qahtan ibn Salama of Banu al-Baddar Kinda. Kinda is another big Arab tribe, Yemeni tribe, commented on the eastern two lines of poetry and swearing that he would depose Abu Wahab. So now people are upset about this exile. And then some of them start swearing we would change the governor of Kufa, Abu Wahab al-Walid, and his master Osman. And then they call him the Osman, the cave of error, Osman ibn Affan. Most of these men are known to have been prominent among the Shia during the reign of Ali, and if they survive, as did Khomeini ibn Ziyad in the generation after his Ali's death. So we see these are men later on are known as Shia and not simply Shia, political Shia. There are religious Shia. We have Dua Khomeini associated, and then these guys are active. These guys are well-known also military commanders in other events and are all supporting Imam Ali. So this whole thing of Shiaism or loyalty to Imam Ali started much earlier and even before his caliphate, and is essentially naturally you have to assume it was the continuation of what was in Ghadir. Khomeini lived a long time, survived even not only Karbala, I don't know where he was, but he's an old man that time, even Mukhtar. He died much later, even after Mukhtar, a few years after Mukhtar martyrdom. So yeah. Yeah, he participated in another rebellion against the Hajjaj and Abdul Malik and Marwan, and they martyred in that rebellion. And then but Osman, for whatever reason, maybe the pressure, dissatisfaction, or himself, replaced that Walid ibn Uqba, which the governor which produced dissatisfaction, by someone else, Sayyid ibn As, which was maybe adopt a new policy. And then Osman told this new governor, okay, don't be confrontational as Walid ibn Uqba was, because Osman doesn't want disorder there. And he ordered the new governor to treat the people gently. And Sayyid drew So what Said did bring a group of Quran reciters and prominent local leaders to his company, spend the evenings with them. You know, always these kings and rulers, governors have meetings in the evening, see different people. But he tried to bring those prominent local leaders, Quran readers. These Quran readers is an important class of people in Kufa. They call them Qurra. And as we will see, many of these Qurra are also the Shias, or really the pious that support Imam Ali. Actually, we have to say these guys are knowledgeable of Islam. Those who know about Islam, they know how to recite or read Quran. So get some. This is the first thing somebody knows religion should know. Give a prominent position to them, and they sit in the Masjid al-Kufa reading Quran, teaching people Quran, and then different qira'ats came out of these guys. You know, later on the next generations that we know out of the seven qaris. Seven qira'at, three are from Kufa. Kufa has very important influence. And then we see this Qurra were a class for themselves. I mean, today we have to call them clergy or religious scholars. Essentially, they're that. And then you see they're more religious, pious-minded, they are more knowledgeable. Not all people over there knowledgeable because many of the tribes were big. They didn't know much about Islam. Still, there are many interesting stories, but we don't have time to go through that. So we see this class of Qurra consists of many of the supporters of Imam Ali, and then look into him religiously. Because there are, I mean, the sociology of Kufa is interesting. We have a class of Ashraf. We have a class of which is governmental officials, or at least intermediate with governments. Those especially are spreading the money, you know, collecting the tax and spreading the payments, because these soldiers will receive payment from government, a system established by Omar, and the monies they receive, you know, their annual salaries and the tax they collect or give, always mediated with these people. Then we have the tribal leaders, and then the falahin. The sociology is interesting, and the class was these Quran readers, which you can imagine clergy. You know, that's the best way to do it. And many of them were supporting Imam Ali. And then so some of these prominent leaders, these new governors, start to meet with them, like putting gather with them, meeting with them, inviting them. Okay, guys, recite Quran in front of me. Let's talk together. It's a more friendly approach. Abu Bakr named a fair number, and many appear again later as active supporters of Imam Ali and prominent figures in the Shia movement. As we said, so this Qurra class, for example, you don't see much. This is emphasized in the when you read other story books or Sunni books. And then I read some of these names, or maybe the names, it shows they're from very different tribes, all the tribes of Kufa. We had some discussion about the Kufa story before, so the details are there. But among them, you see, we have Ashtar. So Ashtar is also the commander, leader, also military commander, leader of tribe, but it seems among the Gharis, or at least the leaders meeting with the governor in a regular basis. We have two brothers which are important, Sa'sa ibn and Zayd ibn Sawhan, sons of Sawhan. Sa'sa, his name is in Nahjul Balagha. He's a very great orator, and is Imam Ali, which is the king of the Amir of the speech, has sometimes asked Sa'sa stand up, give a speech. So this guy must be very good. And then his other brother is Zayd, which we will see later on in the end of this lecture, inshallah. He's martyred, and there is something about his martyrdom which is related to the topic of a discussion. They are from a tribe called Abdul Qais, and then we have from Tamim. But some of these guys later become Khariji. I am not reading all of these, but there are all names. So history books mention. I think for now he says Ashtar and the two sons of Sohan, Sa'sat ibn Sohan and Zayd. Other names for now of not interest for us. But it is in one of these evenings, which is supposedly friendly and sitting and talking together, the governor said something which made all the Kufans angry, not the Shias, and maybe something was back of his mind, or maybe something here from Osman. Again, like these appointees from Trump, which occasionally say something and the whole country goes to uproar. I mean, it was one of these evenings gatherings in the government palace that Said ibn Aus made his memorable remark that the Sawad was merely garden of Quraysh. Sawad was the land around Kufa was huge land. And remember, Iraq was important because it was the prosperous province of the whole Islamic empire. Because the irrigation channel, a time of Sassanids built, because of the two river of the Euphrates and Tigris, because of the fertile land, it was most prosperous. The tax collected from Iraq was 5 times more than Syria. So you can talk about the wealth of Iraq was 5 times more than Syria and any other province in that time. And then this land was collectively belonged to peoples which involved in conquest, and people living in Kufa, some people in Basra, and all those stuff. And then was established from time of Umar. But as I said, Osman started to change the regulation, and then it gives some privileges to Quraysh. And this guy said he's the guardian of Quraysh. So essentially, he says it doesn't belong to you guys, it's belong to Quraysh. So maybe your source of income, source of livelihood, suddenly, for example, the federal government comes and says these are belong to me, President Trump. You know, you have, for example, you have a park or a state park or something belongs to you, or suddenly like that. So people get upset. And in that meeting, produced a brawl, or prohibiting a brawl, which the police chief was manhandled. So the shorter leader, these guys get angry, even hit the shorter. And then Said ibn asked the governor, which was adopting the policy, but he said this nonsense, produced a brawl, wrote to Osman complaining that Al-Ashtar and his companions, who were called the Quran readers, but very really insolent troublemakers. So you see, Ashtar and his companion really considered as Quran readers. Other Ashtar was a tribal leader. So this Quran Muslim consider of this group. And then he wrote, these guys are very rebel rousers and troublemakers. If they are here, I cannot control Kufa. You have to give me do something about it. Osman instructed them to exile them to some of them to Syria again, and then but sending a letter to Ashtar because Ashtar was still prominent leader, and so Said sent a letter to Ashtar, those brothers of Sohan, Zaid and Sasa, and Hujr ibn Atif. Letter to Hujr, reprimanded Hujr ibn Adi, Kumail ibn Ziyad, one another Jundab, and Haris ibn Abdullah al-Awar, these Hamdani. This is a very prominent companion of Imam Ali, which become martyred. Yazid, another Nakhai, Yazid ibn Mukhaffaf al-Nakhai, Sabit ibn Ghis al-Nakhai, and okay, and yeah, let me careful. I think I mixed something. Some of them received the letter, some of them are exiled. So the letter was Ashtar, but these other guys are exiled. So brothers of Sohan, Zaid and Sa'sa are exiled. And Kumail is exiled. Hujr ibn Adi is exiled. No, okay. A supporter of Hujr ibn Adi. So this guy, not so much. Kumail, and then, sorry. So brother of Sawad, Kumail ibn Ziyad, a supporter of Hujr ibn Adi, Haris ibn Avar al-Hamdani, and couple of these guys now are exiled to Damascus. So joining the Amr ibn Zurara, which already was exiled. Remember, one guy already was exiled to Syria. Now they're exiling few other, which are most important for us is Sasa and Zaid, Sohan brothers, and Komil, and Haris ibn Avar Hamdani. These four people are important for us. And then they exile. Now, in opposition, now some of these Quran readers now wrote a letter to Osman. So when they noticed Ashtar get a letter, a few of them exiled to Syria, they now wrote a letter to Osman. And then in the name of few of them who wrote a letter, again, is a very important companion, Imam Ali Ma'al ibn Ghis Riyahi, Hujr ibn Adi now wrote a letter, but he later on, martyred by Muawiyah and then buried in the Syria. And, this last uprising of, last getting power of ISIS. Unfortunately, there's ISIS people dug his grave, so disrespect his grave. Hujr ibn the great companion of Imam Ali, this. So all this stuff are still continued. He was martyred. He was a brave man. He was the leader of an important tribe, Kinda. Amr ibn Hamad al-Khazai, he was being martyred, mentioning about, and but Amr ibn Hamad al-Khazai also was among the Egyptian rebels which besieging Osman Palace in Medina. These guys are writing letter, but still big names. There is the Sulaiman ibn Surad al-Khazai. This guy is wrote to the letter, is among the leader of Kufa, 20 years more than that, wrote letter to Imam Hussein, invite Imam Hussein to Kufa, but unfortunately didn't go to Karbala. And after that, when he was old man, he was very kind of get grieved, and then he want to repent. He become the leader of penitent or tababun. These are a group of people, the order of few thousand from Kufa, which had invited Imam Hussein, but didn't join him and defending him. After his martyrdom, they kind of the grief and sense of guilt. They want to remove this sense of guilt. They want to become martyrs, so to kind of repenting like that. So they rebelled in a condition that kind of was clear they will be all martyred. But they were military commanders. They were not, regular people. They were all famous guys. And this Sulaiman al-Surad al-Khazai is their leader. This guy is, unfortunately, he misses opportunities and he'll catch up later on. And then, but they all martyred. So there are 3,000-4,000 of them really rebelled again. Ibn Ziyad fight with Umayyads after Karbala. But interestingly, Shia Hadith, we don't have anything against them or supporting them. Kind of the silence means, guys, you did it, but you did it late. You did it the right time. So this is all for us, for all of us. Sometimes we have to do the right things the right time. If we miss it, the first of all is for myself, but for all of us. Yeah, so you see the names is good. If we go back to history, this is the guy. Imam Ali is not the caliph. He's writing to Osman among the Quran readers, so among the religious readers, knowledgeable readers, now talking to Osman. So the name in this, those who write the letter are more famous. So, I mean, it's Komel, okay, we all of us know, but was exiled. But Ma'alib Riyahi, and then Hujr ibn Adi himself, Amr ibn Khazai, Sulaiman al-Surad al-Khazai, and some other leader like Ziyad ibn Nasr al-Harisi, a prominent leader in Safain. So you see, these guys are all later on become leaders and they're active, and it's not this support or this action or Imam Ali started many after him or after Osman was killed, after the war started. They're already there. So the letter assured the Caliph of their loyalty as long he obeyed God, but warned him that his reliance on oppressors such as Said was dividing the community. The letter was not signed. Later on, we know who they were. And Osman hastened to press the messenger, Abu Rabi al-Anazi. I had a student with this name, al-Anazi. So you see, I mean, it's not surprising we have Husis are Bani Hamdan, but it's get after 1,400 years, you have some guy with the same family name. Is interesting. We have other tribes which are all Arabs of the same time. To reveal the names of the writers by beating and imprisoning him. So the Osman started to beat the messenger, and Imam Ali, because it's Medina, intervened. Said by arguing, look, Abu Rabia was merely a messenger conveying what he had been trusted with, so Osman should stop. Another guy sent a letter separately alone, but this guy was ordered by Osman to the governor, lash him 20 lashes and exile him to Ray. So we have one guy is exiled to Ray, few guys to Ray in Iran, south of Tehran, and then the other ones are exiled to Syria. It seems this Ka'b ibn Zul al-Haqaba was later on martyred in some place called Taslis, north of Yemen, by at the time of Caliphate of Ali, by the really savage, cruel, merciless general of Muawiyah, Bushr ibn Abi Artad. Besides Hajjaj, this is the second man, which is really Wa'ad ibn Ziyad, the cruelest of the cruels you can find. After Safain War and after Hakimiyya, which was some a kind of stalemate or cold front between Imam Ali and Muawiyah. But Muawiyah start to, underlining the authority of Imam Ali, start to do some campaign of terror. So he start small bands of army to really go into the territory under control of Imam Ali and start terrorizing people. Terror, right, really was terrorism, killing, uh, burning, destroying, especially in Hejaz and Yemen. I mean, the line near the coast of Red Sea, coming down from Syria, going down to Yemen, and that's many khutbas of Imam Ali in Nahjul Balagha, which is rebuking the Kufa and other people. Why do not stand for your family, your why you don't stand up to this stuff or talking. I heard somebody, some woman, Jewish woman, they have taken out jewelry from his feet. Khalkhal, if anybody here that's dying from sorrow is not to be blamed, is during this time. This reign of terror, which Abu Shabna Abi Artat uh, initiated, and then the people that are a little bit reluctant to even defend their homeland is not, let alone, okay, something else. And during one of these, Bustam Nabi Artat killed this Ka'b ibn Zul Habaka, which wrote a letter. He killed many other people. He killed the son of the other brother of Abbas, ibn Abbas. Abdullah ibn Abbas, the younger brother of Ubaydullah ibn Abbas. Two of his sons, he was in army of Imam Hassan. Two of his sons was killed by this person, Abi Artat. So, okay, so this is one. Many of these people we hear their name, they're later on martyred because of being supportive of Ali. I have to go faster, but we have time. Now, the exiles to Damascus stayed in the house of Amr ibn Zurara. So remember, so we have a digression. One guy already was in Damascus. They sent 4 or 5 new people to Damascus. They go stay with this guy, which earlier was there. Uh, Muawiyah is the governor of Damascus. Treat him well, but eventually there were sharp words between him and Ashtar. And Ashtar, it seems, was exiled too. And Ashtar was imprisoned. And Amr ibn Zurare, the first one which was exiled, reminded Muawiyah that Ashtar had supporters. He was in prison. Um, uh, and then the rest of the group too warned Muawiyah to respect their rights as neighbors, but then kept silent. Muawiyah asked them why they do not speak. So some of these guys, it seems, start to play a little bit politically uh, I mean, expedient way. So when these are exiled, but not only they're exiled, two of them are now in prison in Damascus. One of these, Amr ibn Zurara, one of these Malik Ashtar himself. Khomeini is here too. And then, but Sohan sons are there. And then Zayd ibn Sohan answered, kind of politically in the middle way, telling Muawiyah, what good would we speaking do? We criticize you, saying to. And then he says, like, if we have been wrongdoers, we repent to God. And if we have been wrong, we ask for God for well-being. And Muawiyah liked this because Muawiyah doesn't want these guys to be there and then kind of to give him a middle way. Muawiyah praised Zayd and allowed him to return to Kufa, writing a letter of recommendation for him to Governor Sayyid ibn As. And Zayd thanked Muawiyah, who at his request released those who had been in prison. So somehow, maybe we don't know the details, some compromise came. Muawiyah is getting worried. And we'll see later sentence, the presence of these guys maybe be headache for him. People start to notice, asking questions, what's going on. Shortly thereafter, however, he learned that some of the people of Damascus were associating with Al-Ashtar and his companions. So released them from prison, but except the Zayd ibn Sohan, which let him go back from exile, kept them all other ones exiled in Damascus. But when releasing Ashtar from prison, they noticed start talking to people in Damascus, which he didn't like. And he wrote to Osman, warning that the men he had sent to him in exile might corrupt his own subjects, that's people in Damascus. But they were ignorant. Even Ashura, they don't know nothing. Like me, some of these Salafis or other ones, they know nothing. They go to the Umayyad mosque praying to Muawiyah. They know nothing of history or reality of Islam. Osman instructed him to send them on to Homs. And so there was other city, the second city against Syria, Homs, is the the crucial city again, in the middle between Damascus and Halab. And Osman instructed him to send him to Homs, ruled by Muawiyah, governor Abdurrahman ibn Khalid ibn Walid. So because Muawiyah was upset in Damascus, these guys start to talk to people, maybe to start a problem for Muawiyah even. Osman send them to Homs. Homs was different, this actually most of the Syria were Christians. I mean, long story because the Muslim army we conquered the Syria, much of it died because of the uh, uh, what's the name? Pandemic, which happened during that time, epidemic or pandemic, and five-sixths of the army died. So the whole structure of demographic change, and the Muawiyah relied on Christian tribes to rule. And then Damascus was mostly Christian city. The only city was majority Muslim was Homs, and that's the one with Khalid ibn Walid have conquered most of Syria. But Umar was worried or jealous of Khalid, removed him, but give them this governorship of Homs. And the son of Khalid ibn Walid was ruling. And officially Muawiyah was put in, but this is a position was given at the time of Umar to this family, so they would keep it for a long time. But actually later on, Muawiyah poisoned this Abdurrahman al Khalid because he was worried this guy be rival for Yazid. So when Umayyah wants to put Yazid as a caliph, he wants to remove all the rivals. And one of the rivals was in Abdurrahman al Khalid the Walid, which wasn't a Shia or even was hostile to Shia, but he was really military commander, brave, people like him, like his father, has some reputation, like Khalid ibn Walid. Uh, and then he was poisoned. Okay. Soon after was general rebellion, but meanwhile these five people were exiled, or the Muawiyah sent them to Homs. A general rebellion happened in Kufa, um, and and uh, and then I think during this period, these exiled people also returned back to Kufa. So the Sayyid ibn As, the governor, was called to Medina for the conference of governors. The Kufans, which were upset from him, especially because of his comment regarding Sawad al-Kufa, they thought he would not come back. But when they noticed Osman sending him back, they rebelled. And then it seems for whatever reason, Malik Ashtar is coming back to Kufa. He took control of the town without bloodshed. And on the general basis of agreement, the Kufan leaders, they should not allow Sayyid ibn As to return. So all the Kufan leaders, all the people are agreed, we're not letting this guy come back. We get the control of Kufa, and without any bloodshedding or any fight, they just changed the government. So you see, these are active, these are the level of activities, a high level of activity. No, but you see that you have to know that complications are more, you hear another name, which is a little bit surprising. Ashtar put Abu Musa Ash'ari in charge of Kufa. And you remember Abu Musa Ash'ari is the guy which is in Hakimiyya. Again, Kufa chose him or forced Imam Ali to choose him instead of Ibn Abbas. And Imam Ali wasn't happy. At the end, Amr asked to see Abu Musa Ash'ari. Abu Musa Ash'ari has a record. He was among those who conquered these areas, even come to Iran. I think area of Isfahan and Qom, maybe he conquered by, I think he wasn't conquering of Isfahan too. But later, for a while, he and his family are influential in these two cities. His children become judges. He's close to governments. I think it's a compromise. Ashtar have to use Ash'ari somewhere in the middle. Because previously Osman has put him as a governor of Basra. They'll remove him from Basra. But at least he's a member of the Osman had given position. So now he's in Kufa. So they put him in charge of Kufa. It's a choice that Osman cannot completely go against, Okay, somewhere in the middle. But this is a special rebellion is in Kufa, not the main rebellion against Osman. But then you have in this period a rebellion of Egyptian against Osman, which has many causes, but one of the important causes we talked about, and I think we need to talk one more time truly in English because there's one new discovery, is this. Uh, Egyptian army, especially Muslim army, especially Egyptian part, they were involved in a raid and war against Byzantine, both sea and land, and that war went bad, very disastrously, and is the first defeat of Muslim army from the time conquest start, the major defeat. And then the people involved, now we have records. Really, it was hidden in the history. There's some that part of history of the first conquest against Byzantine is very shaky and hidden. And then I can, it's important thing we see what's happening. But now we have records recently. I mean, last year actually a paper came out show that okay, the reason the people are upset, they blame Osman, the Caliph, Muawiyah, the governor of Damascus, and Amr ibn As, the governor of Egypt, for this defeat. So they mismanaged it. They didn't support them. They sent them front without the right logistic. When they stuck over there, they left them alone. So it's a very, very fiasco because it's a huge naval expedition from Alexandria, Egypt, toward Byzantium in Turkey, present Turkey, and then from sea, and then big from land, all big army. And then we have a record of it by a non-Muslim Armenian writer, contemporary Sibios. And then there are some traces of what may happen in Tabari and other books, but it's all this defeat was hidden. So the point is that this is one of the main reasons Egyptians rebelled. The other thing was the fiscal financial policy of corruption of Osman, nepotism, of Osman, giving position all to his Umayyad relatives, and then the completely free hand in the treasury. So all this make Egyptians were the foremost of rebellion. Also some instigation by Aisha, Amr As himself, because Osman removed Amr As then. And then also some Telha, which was close to Aisha. They all because the government has become the oligarchy of Umayyads and all the other Quraysh oligarchy, which have some share of power in the time of Omar and Abu Bakr put aside, so they're upset. So, Omar was against Bani Hashim rulership, but then become Bani Umayyah rulership. They were not against it. So it wasn't Quraysh rulership, become Bani Umayyah and then become Bani Abbas. So anyway, for that theory of Omar, but rebel group, I have to go faster. Sorry, it maybe takes a little time. I go faster. Rebel groups from Kufa under Ashtar and from Basra under, they go over there, and the story is Imam Ali warned them that, okay, as the Kufa and Basra not too much be involved in instigation around Osman, they don't want to be bloodshed. But it's happened, and then Osman was killed. And then so Imam become Caliph. So you see, for now, all the discussion we had was till Imam become before Caliphate Imam. So till now, all discussion was before Caliphate Imam. And then let's summarize what we have. The early protege in Kufa was led by religious activists, Quran readers. Quite a few of them were also tribal leaders of considerable military distinction, like Malik Ashtar or Rajamati. They were highly dissatisfied with Osman's Umayyad governors, though basically loyal to established caliphate. Why they were particularly attached to Ali among the senior companions of Muhammad is not, while they particularly attached to Ali among the senior companions of Muhammad is not evident. Their relation with Ali were at the time probably not very close. In the sense, they don't have maybe like, this is all the Matlock speculation. They're devoted to Ali, they're supporting him. This is the only one among the companions they do. But we cannot say there are contact, at least Matlock is not sure, on the daily basis. They know each other, but it's not Imam Ali wrote them, do this, do that, go do that. They are doing it by themselves, by devotion Imam Ali or so on. But after Caliphate, things change because Imam come to Kufa and is direct connect to him. And then he must have been aware of them and their sympathies, but certainly did not act as their teacher or control their actions. Because the position of Ali was difficult, he was on one hand severely critical of Osman's conduct, and the other hand is the closest kinsman of Osman. Osman, mother was an aunt from Amma, from father's side, both Imam Ali and Prophet Muhammad. So they have some relationship like that. His father's side, Osman, was Bani Umayyah, but his mother's side was from Bani Hashim. And on the other, as the closest kinman of Osman among the senior companions of Prophet Muhammad, especially obliged to protect him. This is the view Matlum has, that the tribal relationship is there. Imam try, even said Imam Hassan to protect him, but he was not listening. It was only short before the death of Caliph that Ali, seeing the firm grip of Osman Umayyad's king on him, virtually cut his relationship with him. Now, so now we are going to the Caliphate period and then see some of these guys, what role they have, and some other aspects. And although I think the important part is here, but let's see how I can go the next 20 minutes. Ali's Caliphate was dominated by the first fitna. He conflicted the Quraysh. We know the Jamal war with Aisha and Talha and Zubair. Um, some interpret this as a personal, but I mean, personal grudge of Aisha, but overall it's politics too. They don't want Ali be the ruler from the first place. They don't like his justice. They don't like his fairness. They don't like that he cannot, doesn't do favoritism. They cannot benefit from the riches. You know, Talha and Zubair, although Zubair initially was among after the Saqifa support Imam Ali, but not in these many years, 25 years, they become ultra rich, ultra powerful. So they want to have the privileges be there. And you know, Imam Ali is not like that. So Imam Ali has one conflict in Jamal with these guys, but then you have a conflict with Muawiyah, which some people look to the conflict with Muawiyah, mostly original conflict. You know, the early conflict in Jamal, they call it personal or ambitious of people from Hijaz or early companions. With the Muawiyah, others with Muawiyah, which is son of Abu Sufyan, but it's maybe a regional rivalry reflecting between Syria and Iraq for hegemony after decline of Medina. Uh, And both group used as a rallying cry, revenge of Osman, but you know, it was so. Now, this is the part I think is the core of what we want to say, although I put lots of introduction to it, which I think for itself. You got some more example that the concept of religion was there. So in the next 20 minutes, I try to go through it and then we'll stop. Uh, but whatever the underlying motives and slogans in the conflict, religious overtones soon come to the fore. And then they cannot come to the fore when they're not there. They have been there. And then we can see that they start to look Republicans and although yeah, we have the Republic and Democrats, they accuse each other, you're Christian, non-Christian, but mostly the difference is political, it's not religious. You know, we don't have per se religious party, but there are religious values here too. But let's see. Look, this is one examples Madalun find, and these examples are interesting because he looked to the rajas, the poetry these people come to do fighting each other make, and then these are usually recorded faithfully because they're rhymed and then every member of the tribe knows this is an important time, like it's a propaganda advertisement. The guy maybe not alive few hours after reciting this or few minutes after reciting this. This is maybe his last sentence, so they reflect on it. So all of these rajas are important piece of literature, and actually they're maybe one of the most untouched ones because it was recited in public. Many people know them, heard them. And for each tribe was important whether the guy survived the battle or not. So, and then he finds some interest, and is a little bit Arabically challenging too. You need to understand very well, and that's the part. You need to know the context, you know, the language, to see what it's really saying. So during this is interesting. Start to see some examples in the Battle of Jamal and Battle of Osman, and you see the sense of religion of Ali is definitely existent in his own time. So it's not that this is some, we saw the activists which were loyal to him. They're mostly religious people, religious scholars before his caliphate. But now we see the concept during his caliphate. So it's not that this idea of Din Ali is coming after he died. During the Battle of the Camel, Ali's opponents spoke of the Din Ali, the religion of Ali. And the one example we have, Amr ibn Yasribi of the Basran Banu Dabba, who were among the most vigorous supporters of Aisha, killed 3 of Ali's followers. Among them, Zayd ibn Sohan. So that's Zayd ibn Sohan, which was exiled, and is the same guy talked to Muawiyah, said, okay, it doesn't worth we saying anything. If we are right, okay, we were right. If we were wrong, we told why we will come right, and so on. He was martyred in this Jamal and is killed by this guy. And this guy, after killing him, make a rajas. And he claimed that I killed 3 people. And look what is the rajas is. If you kill me, I am Ibn Yasribi. Or you want to kill me, I'm Ibn Yasribi. Who killed, I don't know who's this guy, as Alba, and maybe there's an Ain over there, Alba, and Hind al Jamali. So one is Alba, Hind al Jamali here is the name of man. We have Hind and the Imam and then Ibn Sohan. So he boasts that he's killed Sayyid Ibn Sohan, and then he adds this Ibn Sohan, or all three were followers of, it doesn't say followers of Ali, Shia to Ali, followers of the Deen Ali. Fa'ala Deen Ali. They are not even they are on the Deen of Ali. And one other thing is that this concept of religion used here is interesting. Anyway, there was another talk, some other scholar give another meaning of religion, but this gives, we had it a few years ago in the nights of Ramadan, in the Harvard Nights of Ramadan for Zek. I think this is a little bit contradictory to evidence they give. This meaning of religion here is exactly what we understood as a comprehensive way of life. It means religion as religion. Deen, and meaning of religion. But anyway, that's another story. So this guy said, the three I killed, there are followers of Deen Ali. Okay. So the other is from the enemy, but the enemy said, I killed three people, they're Deen Ali. So Shia, in the sense of religious, they're supporting Ali, which we know some. So brothers, we know very well what they were like that. Ibn Yasribi was captured and brought before Imam Ali, the commander of the faithful, ordering him to be killed. The only captive not pardoned by him after Jamal. But later Imam Ali was asked why this has happened. It is reported, he says, that Ibn Yasribi had killed three men who claimed were the followers of the religion of Ali. But he added the religion of Ali, Imam Ali added the religion of Ali was the religion of Muhammad. So maybe in that sense, they want to say the Deen of Ali is a new religion, it's not the religion of Muhammad. They put it down. Imam said, look, I am the religion of Prophet Muhammad, and this is the situation. But the word is used, and three people martyred, and then they accuse or can say they are religion of Ali. There is another example which is narrated with the other son of Imam Ali, Muhammad ibn Hanafiya. Ali's son Muhammad ibn Hanafiya narrated that at one point he had charged an opponent, but when he was about to pierce him with his lance, the man said, I am of the religion of Ali ibn Abi Talib. And this son understood and what he meant and let him go. So again, this concept is not vague. At this, I am at the word. I think the religion is the way we understand means Deen Ali, following religiously what he suggests. He's my leader religiously, but at least okay. That's, I think, is the common sense to understand. But according to another poet, the Basran Azad. So this tribe of Azad were divided loyalty. Some of them loyal to Aisha and Tal and Zubair were on the other side. Some were this side with Imam Ali. But the part of Basra which was escaping, when forced to flee, called out in order to save their lives. So they start to escape, and they start to say, we are the followers of the religion of Ali ibn Abi Talib. So you see, this concept must be there. Somebody shouts to say, I am followers of Deen Ali. And even that scholar has, which has a very more limited understanding of religion, Professor at Harvard. Even in that sense, okay, means this guy say we following the way the rituals should be done. He understood religion as just only ritual worship, but definitely that's the sense of meaning of it, Deen. But I think we understand more comprehensive is really Deen as we understood it, religion today, and because the religion is taken as a translation of Deen. So that scholar has some dispute what exactly Deen should be translated. He really translate Deen as ritual or worship, but even if you take a ritual worship, which doesn't make sense in this context, or even that, it says some religious significance is there to Imam Ali, and it's very early. It's not it cannot come in 1 minute, and already these people are known, and both sides knows what it means to be follower of Ali, or religion Ali. What could Deen Ali mean at this time beyond acceptance of his caliphate? He again plays the devil advocate to show, but it's more than that. It's clearly more than that. And then he wants to explain. I think the context clearly shows it's more than his caliphate. But then he wants to give another example, and this example is a little bit complicated, but it's kind of maybe the one we nearly finished with it. An indication may be provided by two other lines of battle poetry recited by an anonymous Sheikh of Adi, so another tribe. Again, maybe these also have the divided loyalty, because Some are this side, some are side. The Basran Banu Adi of the tribe confederation of Rebab were like the Banu Dabba staunch backers of Aisha, the first one, which killed 3 people. And many of them were killed defending her camel litter. So, in the Battle of Jamal, Aisha was sitting on a camel, and the camel was a symbol of that army. And Imam Ali ordered Imam Hassan to cut the legs of that camel. When the camel fell, kind of the army was defeated. Molding the halter of Aisha's camel, the Sheikh recited, "We are Adi, carrying lances of mashrafi swords, a type of swords, helmets, and twisted iron rings of mail. Mail. We kill whomever opposes the legatee. Man yukhaliful wasi. Okay, here is a little confusing. What is the legatee? Because Imam Ali usually considered to be wasi, but then we'll see what we'll see. Madluk says there's a scholar, the Italian Jewish scholar G. Levi della Vida, who first made known and translated these 2 lines quoted in Balazuri. Balazuri is a important historic work which Professor Madluk completely corrected, edited, published it. And then Ado has 2 books. I don't know which one. Okay, maybe it's the other book, but anyway, 2 lines quoted in Balazuri and Sab al-Ashraf, which is the story of the nobles, the lineage of nobles of the Arabs of Quraysh. And then this first Levi de la Vida taught the Wasis referring to Imam Ali. But Matlub says he doesn't get the meaning or clear meaning of the verse. He apparently did not notice the incongruence of a Basran partisan of Aisha claiming that he and his tribesmen were killing opponents of Ali, because the verse means we are killing whom opposes the legatee. So the legatee, the Wasi, shouldn't be Imam Ali, but so who he is. The story and poetry were moreover narrated by a well-known scholar of the Banu Adi who must have been well aware of his story of his people. So it's not a mistake. It is inconceivable that he would have split a pro-Ali poetry into it. But Banu Adi were, in the words of the Sheikh, seeking Ali with their lances and swords in order to call him to account for the murder of the Caliph Uthman. The Wasi whose opponents they intended to kill was not Ali, but Abu Bakr, whose daughter they were not defending. And then you see, this is the other theory. Remember, we said Aisha has his own theory, which wasn't dominant and different from Omar. Aisha was always claiming that Abu Bakr was the Wasi and chosen of the Prophet Muhammad as successor. Which is a street of Sunnis maybe believe that, but it's not matching the evidence. And traditional scholarship said no, nobody was designated. Because if that's the case, all the indicators for Imam Ali is much bigger. So they have to accept if this flimsy one is the evidence of designation, for Imam Ali was designated much more. And then they claim none of them are indication of designation, because the whole story of Saqifa is so random, which none of it depends on much designation. Abu Bakr is not commonly called Muhammad's legatee or wasi. The use of the term for him is evidently polemical, aiming to counter the claim of the followers Ali that Prophet cousin was wasi. So you can see it indirectly. We can say this is claim. Okay, they claim ours is wasi, not yours champion. Our champion is wasi, and then Aisha's father was wasi, not Imam Ali. So you can see the whole concept is there. The split is there, and they're claiming that for themselves. It had nonetheless a good basis in the argumentation of the supporters of Abu Bakr prior to the title to Caliphate. They commonly asserted that Muhammad's order Abu Bakr to lead the communal prayer during the last illness constituted an indirect appointment as his successor to leadership of community, a view consistently propagated by Aisha. That Ali's father during his caliphate commonly called him the Wasi of Muhammad is broadly attested in contemporary poetry in praise of him. So again, this issue of being Wasi, that he must be successful, is not something made up after him. Ali does not seem to have applied the term to himself, but he certainly must have approved of it. It signified his claim to have been specifically entitled to succeed Muhammad as leader of the Muslim community, and thus was bound to arouse the resentment of the admirers of Abu Bakr and Umar's caliphates. Maybe he was cautious a little bit, Imam Ali, to not push this line now, because the whole army was split. Those who try to ridicule this claim call it the religion of Ali. So the belief that Ali was the successor of Imam Prophet, and Prophet designated him, is this Wasi is the religion of Ali, which is essentially the core of Shi'ism. The minimum of Shi'ism is this, that there was a designation, and we believe by God, and then Imam Ali was chosen by Prophet and God to be the successor. This is the minimum of Shi'ism, the minimum, which we will expand on actually next lecture, but let me go this part. In Shia tradition, Ali title as the legatee of Muhammad is commonly attested by the event of the Ghadir Khum, where the Prophet is reported to have declared to the assembled Muslims, he whose patron I am, Ali is his patron. Uh, uh, And then, in his article in Ghadir Khum, Encyclopedia of Islam, second edition, another Italian scholar, Levigia Bacheleri, the woman, this lady, points out that this hadith, in view of his broad transmission, Sunni sources cannot simply be considered late Shia fiction. This is a Western scholarship. We know Ghadir Khum, we have Al-Ghadir, I didn't discuss it. All the Al-Ghadir, that all the work of Allah Amini is to show these are in many Sunni books, although we talk about a little bit next lecture. So, uh, uh, at this part I will skip because I want to stop. Maybe we can stop because I want to explain this next lecture again. And this is common, more true. It seems Imam Ali, because of the condition, less emphasize on this designation, because in one sense, but he does. At least look, the story it says, maybe not all people coming next lecture. I said it. Look, many of the quotation in the Sunni sources, such as Ibn Hanbal Musnad, are introduced by a report. More, Hadith Qadir is mutawatir in some sources, but many of them do not narrate it from the event of Qadir in the year 10 or 11 of Hijrah, 10 of Hijrah, in 18 of Zihajjah. They narrate it from the enactment in Kufa. When, as we say, that during his caliphate, Imam Ali once appeared to Muslim gathered in the plaza, the main central square in the Kufa, asking them who had heard the words of the Prophet and Ghadir Khum to witness. 12 or 13 companions of Prophet Muhammad came forward and testified they had heard these words. It is evident that Ali himself was intent on propagating the hadith, which implied that he was chosen successor of the Prophet. So at least the claim of Sunnis and Western scholarship that Imam Ali didn't himself claim that he's a successor of Prophet Muhammad is not right. Whether, okay, you accept Imam Ali was right in his claim or not, another thing. But Sunnis cannot say he's wrong because all Sahabas are good and always they're correct. So Imam Ali, so these are contradictions in them, but at least it's not that she's something made up after Ali. No, it is from the beginning, from the get-go is there. In general, however, Ali did not base his right to succession on implied appointment with Muhammad. I'm not 100% sure we see that, but look, as we saw in the first lecture, which I argue again a Quranic basis, which I said Zaidi did it, in some of the sentences and letter, Imam Ali goes the other line. And then he usually, rather he claimed to have had the best title, he's the best for this, on the basis of both his early and outstanding service to Prophet and cause of Islam and his clean kinship to Prophet Muhammad. If it's a traditional kingship thing, which all the civilization had, he's the closest. If it's is a precedence, is a service, is an excellence, is the ability, all I have. He was in religious merit the most excellent of men after Muhammad, because Khawarij also didn't accept the kingship. And then you have to be careful who we are dealing. We have an army which have many different views are there. This view is consistently upheld in speeches and lettered by himself, by his governors, such Qais ibn Sa'd ibn Ubadah and Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr. We can see it later on. It was not a secondary thesis developed by the Shia after his death, but an essential part of his message during his reign. Uh, uh, okay, this part I think we can go. Okay, I stop here because I can discuss this all next lecture and it's more naturally kind of this was smoothly joined to next lecture. I will put it over there. So I think I'll stop here maybe with the conclusion. It was not a secondary thesis developed by the Shia after his death, but an essential part of his message during his reign. And then he always emphasized that he has the merit and also the designation to be the successor. Thank you very much for your patience. I will stop here.